In today's video, you are going to learn how to build a completely automated onboarding flow for your employees, for your customers. And it's the exact same system that I used to build our tutoring business, onboard over 100 contractors, onboard over 100 different customers, and make multiple five figures with just a side hustle. But obviously, I didn't want to put too much effort into the day-to-day activities because I have my main work as a software implementer and consultant for some of the largest corporations in the world, and they wouldn't like me jumping around in the tutoring business all the time. So that is why I came up with a completely automated system that I want to give to you completely for free. Today, I'm going to show you everything on how to build it so you can follow along step by step and implement the same solution for yourself. I think it's kind of brilliant. I came up with it myself, so it's not a template I stole from somebody. It's just what I thought made sense for my specific process. We're gonna go over multiple steps today, and it's gonna be a little bit faster paced than usual. First, I'm gonna show you what we want to build in just a second here. Secondly, we will set up a contract. It's gonna be super quick. Probably we're not even gonna go into too much detail because I did it in another video. We're gonna set up a contract with Adobe Sign. That is one of the tools we're going to use today. Then we want to visualize our onboarding flow that we're going to use for our employees or customers in Trello. That's a project management tool. So that's two software solutions for now already. And we are going to use a form from Microsoft and Microsoft Power Automate to build the initial trigger for this automation and the whole automation flow, right? So your software stack for today, Microsoft Power Automate or Microsoft in general, we're going to use Adobe Sign and we're going to use Trello. So all these three solutions coming together. I know I created videos about some of them already, but this year is going to be epic. We're going to go into way more detail, and I'm going to show you exactly how to put them to use in an overall context that makes sense to onboard employees and suppliers, employees and customers. That's it. All right. So first, obviously, the first question is, what are we going to build today at all? Because what is onboarding? Well, I mean, there's probably a bunch of different ideas for that. But when I move a new contractor in my business, first it's going to start out with a lead, right? So this is basically step one. So I have a new lead. Maybe somebody reached out over our website that we have or over one of our ads, right? Maybe they filled out a lead form on or a lead submission on our Facebook, Meta ads, whatever it is, right? So at some point, there's somebody new coming in. For us, we basically always went straight to scheduling an appointment, right? So we had a booking link on our website. So people would schedule an appointment for, I don't know, the 13th immediately. So this here was kind of the either sales call or interview. But everything that happens after the interview is basically the onboarding. Well, either you decide to bring them on as a customer, as an employee, as a contractor, or you decide to not bring them on. But this here can become a little messy, especially for customers, but for employees as well. It's super important because this is the first impression that you make, right? When you have employees, this is where you set the tone of what they know will be expected from them. Because if you're chaotic, if your stuff doesn't make sense, if you're unstructured, then your employees will immediately notice that, right? They're not stupid. They will understand, oh, this here is a laissez-faire company. You don't want to onboard people in that mindset. And the same with customers. If they see everything is well structured, they will be way more relaxed and forgiving if something goes wrong, right? Because they feel like they can trust you and they feel like, oh, this is clear to me. So what we need is a process that feels exactly the same. Normally you have, for example, contracting, right? I mean, a contract is a big thing. Then there is a schooling platform, for example. Or, it could also be something different. For example, access for your clients to, I don't know, an internal group or something, right? So there's the contracting part, then there's other paperwork, right? For example, if you sign my contract, I may still need your tax identification number, or I may need your VAT number, or whatever it is, right? Maybe something is missing there. Then obviously also, this is especially important when I have somebody like in the tutoring business, we had contractors. Whenever a new contractor is starting their first project, then I want to know, right? Because I want to stay in close touch with them. And in our situation, it was like an extra step. Probably not every business has this, but for us, it was super important because I would bring on a new teacher and they would maybe need a week to sign the contract, and then it would take 2 or 3 more weeks to finally get a client for him. And then Alex would give him a client, and I wouldn't know that they had a client, and then I couldn't follow up, and it did some bullshit. And this was also a big issue. So let's say first work assignment or own customer, right? This would be one thing. Passwords, accounts, billing. There is a lot of things included when you onboard anyone into your business, because you have your structures and you want people to follow them, right? So, what I want to do today is we want to get this whole mess into a well structured process, starting from lead, going over to contract, probably contract send. Then we have contract signed or not signed, right? Could also be. Then we have, for example, in our case, access to internal training given. And you see, this is more on the employee side. Probably it's what we're going to do today, because it's what I was taking care more of in the tutoring business. I built both of these automations, one for customers, one for contractors, but I'm more in the contractor world. So access to internal training given, ready for first assignment. And then we could go on with other steps. So this is what we want to do today. And we want to automate as much of this as we can possibly do, right? So let me go ahead now. We want to take this whole thing, I put this on the side here. And first, we want to basically build this thing in a cool tool called Trello. Trello is a contract, or is a project management tool, if you want. So it's good for recurring processes. Let's say it this way, and you will see why in just a second. It's a very easy to use Kanban system, and that's why I prefer it and I recommend it, even though there's obviously bigger solutions, but I think it's a perfect tool to get into the software world. It's completely free for starters. And yeah, we actually never switched to the paid plan. I don't know. We never needed it. We brought hundreds of people on and we just kept on using this free version. So Trello basically consists of boards where you can track different processes. I would say, for example, one board for employee onboarding. I already created that in a previous video. You will probably remember if you have seen System Saturday episode, I think 1 actually. But quickly to go over it, you basically have these columns where you can then add cards. Right? Cards are your different projects, or in that case here, different customers or contractors. So this could be Linus. And then you will basically move through this process. So at the top, we have our process steps, right? Well, what did we just have? New lead is here, contract send. Well, I go directly to contract signed because this is where the cool stuff begins. Sorry, I'm jumping. But contract sent. We can all agree that between new lead and contract signed, there has to happen a step contract sent. And if you don't want to fiddle with everything that I show you today, you can use Trello this way here. You can map out every single step that has to happen and you can put them in columns. And it will be very easy to track your cards through the process. It's cool, right? It's cool. You can add more information to the cards. You can add pictures and everything, right? You could say, for example, this here is Linus. Let's give him a picture. You could add comments, stuff like this. And now you have Linus here and you can move him through the onboarding process. But we're here to automate that shit, right? I don't want to show you how to do everything manually. This here is about automation, and I assume that you don't want to do everything manually. So let's get rid of this here, and I'll show you in a couple of minutes how we're going to automatically send the contract as soon as we had the interview with our new contractor. We're automatically going to send the contract, and we're automatically going to check if it's already signed. All right? So let me archive this here. And we're going to work with this overview: new lead, contract signed, access to training given. And obviously, when they're ready for work through their training, when they're ready for the first client, task, whatever, then they're going to go in here. Then we track first assignment given. And then we have another one for issue tracking. And maybe we have one more for not hired. Something like this. So we track old leads here. If we can, right? We can. Don't have to. All right. So this was already the first part of today's video. We have a messy number of steps that we try to get into the structure here. And instead of now going in and moving the cards all by hand manually all the time, we want to automate this process. First of all, we're talking about contracts here all the time. We will need a contract. We created this in the previous video. Not going to do it now because it's kind of a tedious thing to do. But yeah, you can find a full tutorial on my channel here. Basically, we created this service contract demo English. And yeah, let me quickly show that. It's an Adobe Sign PDF, basically. But when you send that for signature, it's not going to create a PDF. It is going to go out as an email to your contractor's phone, for example, so they can sign using their hand. What's actually pretty neat. They don't need an account. They don't need to log in. They don't need anything. And yeah, it's a solution to collect electronic signatures. So that is pretty dope. Let me, I think this is a little small, right? So this is just a dummy contract. What we did have, and what you're going to see in a second, is we left a field here. Let's go into edit template for just a second to show you. So there is some fields in here that are kind of variable, right? So in this one field, we are actually, you can see that this here is kind of a test thing. It's not nicely structured. But what's important to understand is we have this field here as a variable field. So I can, on the call, tell everybody how much you're going to earn and try to negotiate back and forth. And when we agree, then I'm going to type in $15 an hour or something in my form that I'm going to show you in a second. And everything is going to be submitted through that. And the contract's going to be auto-filled in with this price and be sent out for electronic signature. I'm probably later going to show you on my phone how this actually looks like. It's really slick. You basically just sign on your phone, gets into your email, and then that's it. You don't have to do anything else. Like it's neat. All right. So we're going to use this specific template. Let me go here, templates, filter, last 30 days. So this is a contract template we're going to use just for demo purposes, right? And then the last thing we're going to use as well for starters is a Microsoft Forms. Now, there are so many Forms tools in the world. I don't want to give a judgment on what's the best. I think Tally is pretty good. I think Google Forms is decent. I think this here is really good. Honestly, normally not a Microsoft fan, but the good thing about this flow here that I'm showing you today is Microsoft Power Automate is really easy to use for these trade line processes, as it already integrates with Trello perfectly, with Adobe perfectly, and with obviously its own Forms application, also very good. You could use something like Make. You could, if you wanted, use N8N, but it will be more of a challenge to use advanced tools, because this here is basically a simple tool, but it's straightforward. And if you're already on Microsoft, this is the perfect solution for you. Otherwise, you would have to twist it and use another form, but all the same principles here will apply that we're going to cover now. All right, so we have basically, I think this here was our demo form. Let's quickly open that. And it should give us a quick form like name of the contractor, email, address. We obviously always need to get the email, and we grabbing the hourly rate as well. I think that's cool. I think we could maybe say something else that would be important for me, would be another text field, and this will be the subjects and grades. So the reason why this is important is because we are doing a tutoring business here, and I want to know what they can actually teach. All right, let me save that. Perfect. Now, this is going to be the form that we're going to use to kick off everything. So if you're not familiar on how these automations work, is we need an initial trigger to start off the whole process. And what I like to do is to have this form on my phone, because I was taking calls from Buenos Aires, from Medellin, from Florida, Jacksonville. I was taking calls from Cyprus. I was taking calls from the airport. It didn't matter, right? So I was everywhere, all over the place. And I wanted to have a way at any time to easily just submit a form from my phone to fill in the information that's important, and then everything else goes automatically. This is what we're talking about here, right? So somebody booked a call with me. I don't know, I was at the airport. I'm taking the call. I don't want to pull out my computer or log into applications or whatever. I just want to click the same URL that I saved to our WhatsApp group all the time, use the same form, type in the important information, and that would be, hey, I just talked to Linus. He's gonna teach English and German 1 to 13, right? That's the classes in Germany. So basically all grades. And yeah, we had some more information. We had I think the availability that they had, obviously email. You also want to grab probably their phone number, etc., etc. Everything that you need for this onboarding process, right? But that was it. That was it. So I basically just typed it in this form here, and then this created a Trello card in the thing that we saw just some minutes ago. And so if we go back here to the Trello thing, this card here, right? Why would I fill in the form and create this card? I don't want to do this. The issue is if you just create the card straight away, you could ask that, right? Why do you fill in the form? Why don't you create the card right away? Well, it's not as easy to use as a trigger for this flow. So that's why we created this form. Also because maybe sometimes I don't want to log into Trello or whatever. This form is like super incredibly easy. So this is the reason why I used this form to kick everything off. And what we want to see is this card here being automatically created, obviously without the nice picture, and then moved through here. Some of the steps automatic, some of the steps not so automatic. So let's now that we know we have a form, we have a contract, we have Trello, right? So now that we have all these three things that we needed, now let's go ahead and go into Microsoft Power Automate. This is the automation tool that we're going to use, tool that absolutely nobody ever talks about. Honestly, I don't know why. Maybe because most people don't have the full Microsoft suite or whatever. But it is a pretty capable tool and it has everything built in. And yes, you can do advanced stuff like webhook is not advanced, but you can actually write some code in there. But yeah, it's really good if you're already on Microsoft. Let's put it this way. Now, let's create a new flow. By the way, I know if you're new to software, this video here is a little bit faster paced. It might be a little bit intimidating. Just follow along. We will not use any code. Right? We will not use any super advanced shit. We will move step by step through the whole process. And I guarantee you, if you use the same tools, you can follow along exactly step by step. And this is also why I decided to not use the flow that we already created in a previous video, but quickly recreate it with some changes though. So if you watch the old video and you want to skip the session, please don't, because we are going to make some critical changes. I want to create a new automated cloud flow. Let's call this Demo System Saturday episode 6. And the trigger, it already gives us the trigger when a new response is submitted on a Microsoft form. Click on create. Yeah, and this here is your place, or our place where we will build this flow. Now, what's important is, hang on, maybe like this, because it's going to open on the left side. When you click on these, you will need to set parameters for all these different blocks. These are blocks, right? This is a trigger block, but there's different blocks, and we always need to set parameters. That's why automation is so beginner friendly, because you don't have to create the blocks or write any code. You just set parameters for the blocks. And in this case, it's even easier because it's all in Microsoft, and we want to track, right? Every time we want to start this automation here is when somebody submits this form here. Whenever I submit this form, I want this automation for the onboarding process to start. That is basically what I want to do. So if you just click on here, you can switch through to your different, hang on. You can go through your different forms that you created, right? So in our case, this is demo employee contract. Super easy, right? This is the form ID. That's basically it. Now, whenever a new response is submitted, we need to get the details of this response, right? So it's very step by step in Power Automate, or in general in automations. But yeah, you need to first grab what was in the response, right? Because the response is basically just an event. And now we want to see, hey, what was in the response, right? What was on the lines? What did they put in there? What's the name of the teacher, everything. So you want to search for get response details from Microsoft Forms. Click on that. And it's going to be very easy. Again, form ID, demo employee contract, and the response ID. This is where it's also very easy in automations, because everything that we did in previous steps, we can now use, right? So this here is a response. This gives us a response ID. And here we can now use this response ID to obviously identify the specific response, because we don't want to get response from some submission, but from the submission that just happened on this form, right? So when new response is submitted, then get the response details. That is basically our first step. So it's going to understand what is in the response. Quickly go over the variable, because we have this. The only thing is super, super slow. We want to initialize a variable, because remember, we have this hourly rate in there, and it is a variable for our contract, right? The hourly rate is negotiable, so it's going to be a variable entry in our contract. If you don't understand that, we had another video where we went into way more detail. Just follow along, right? It's not hyper complex. We are basically going to, just create the variable and later use it to autofill it in the contract where the gap is. So this here is our hourly, or let's say just rate. This is gonna be a string, right? String is text. That's what you could also go for a number probably if we don't have a number. Well, then it's a string. And we want to set this variable again over here. Add another block, variable, set variable. And we want to set this variable. Now it's interesting. The variable that we want to set is rate. And we want to give it a input. That's what we're doing by setting the variable, right? We selected this here, rate, and we want to input a value. Now, we don't know the value, right? I can't go in here and say, you can say the 16 euros. But that's stupid, right? Because then it's always going to put 16 euros in the contract. That's not the point of this here, right? We want to dynamically set this variable. So what you're going to do is click on this flash symbol here again. And then where it says get response details, right? The response details from this form, we want to select the field that was called hourly rate. Right. And that's basically it already. Now, time we created the agreement for this contract, right? This contract template right now and send it out. Today, I don't want to do this, right? Because we're on a more advanced mission. First thing, what we want to do is we want to create a Trello card, but we don't want to create it right away because I want it to be nicely formatted. To do this, we add HTTP to text. Oh, no, sorry, not HTTP, it's HTML. Stupid. HTML to text. Here it is. Content conversion, right? That kind of even makes sense for everyone, I hope. HTML to text. And here we can now basically say, hey, we want to format certain things in a certain way. So the reason why I do this is because I want my Trello cards to look nice. And you're going to see why this is important in a second. So first I'm going to say 2 stars, name. This is markdown. So this is going to mean that the text will be fat in the end. I click enter. And now I take one, obviously, of the variable or the dynamic elements from our form. So whatever I put as the first and last name for this teacher, I want to appear here. Hope this makes sense. Click on enter. And I would say we have, what did we have? Email. Email. Reminds me of this one video. Email. Select the email. And we have one more for subjects. And obviously the different grades that they want to 2 to 4, subjects and grades. All right, so this here is basically formatting what we got from here, the response details, into one text block that we can then later add to our Trello card. Because again, everything that I want to do here should be automatic. I don't want to duplicate everything, right? I don't want to lose information, obviously, from my interview, but I want to capture it somewhere. All right. So the next thing we want to do is create this stupid card finally, because I'm talking about this for now 20 minutes, but we're not getting there. We want to create the card for the new lead. So let's click on plus. Let's click on plus and search for Trello. Trello has so many cool actions that you can do, but we want to go simple and say create a card. By the way, I would say, okay, create card. create a card. I'm starting to realize why nobody's talking about this automation tool. It's just so slow. Anyways, it's going to ask you to go give it a board ID and everything. Again, it's so well integrated as soon as you log in with Trello. By the way, if you do this here the first time, every time you add something for a new software solution like Trello, it's going to ask you to log in. But I mean, that's very simple, right? It's going to ask you for a board ID. Luckily, you don't need to know the ID. You basically just want to understand the name of the board that we are using. That was employee onboarding. So pretty simple. And it wants you to give it the right column. The list is basically the column. So we want to create this. Hang on. It's called a new lead, right? This here's the column. This is the list for new lead. And there's where I want to create the card. New lead. That should work. Now, the card name. A bad example is new teacher. This is not very helpful because it's just going to tell you it's a new teacher. And then you may end up with multiple of these, right? Even if in the comments then you see, oh, this is Lena's, right? Even if you see that in the comments, it's annoying because you will have to open these cards all the time, right? So this doesn't really make sense. I want to archive these two. And what we want to do instead is dynamically name these cards depending on the input of our form, right? It's the teacher that I talk to. It's as easy as this. So I'm going to click on here. And I want to grab the first and last name. And I also want to give it, I think they call it a pipe or something, right? Just for fun. I think that's a cool symbol. What could I do? I could probably do the subject here as well, huh? Yeah. Why not? Why not? Let's put the subject. So this card is going to be named with a name that I put into the form and the subject. So that's pretty good, right? It's going to tell you Linus, English, and German. I mean, that's everything that you need right now on the card, right? So that is how it should create our Trello card in the new lead column or list. So before we go completely crazy and start everything with electronic signatures, let's first quickly check if this here actually works. The way that you do that is you click on test. It's going to ask you to manually test because there was no form yet submitted. We're going to click on test. And it's going to wait for somebody to submit this form. To do this, I'm going to click on collect responses, copy the link for this form. I'm going to go here. I hope I didn't fiddle around. Okay, here I can actually start typing. This here is how it would look like on your Mac, and otherwise would be mobile adapted to your phone, obviously. But this is basically a form. It's super simple, right? You all know them probably from giving somebody permission to log into whatever account, right? So let's take the net to know email. Please don't spam me on this email, guys. I'm going to pay myself an hourly rate of 18 euros. And we have English, German, 1 to 13. That's the classes. All right, let's go ahead and submit this form. Quickly back to our automation and see how the test goes. And it went apparently well. Then you have all these green things. And you see, this didn't take long, right? These automations are super good. Oh, by the way, you just heard maybe that I got an email because I forgot that we're already using this here, this form ID on the old flow that we created the last time. So I just already got the contract. But let's move through this process here. First, what we should see is a new card here. Linus, English, German, 1 to 13. There is the card. Pretty cool already. right? Now, what the card doesn't have though is anything here, right? Where's all the details from the conversation? So let's archive this. And we want to add something more to the card. Click on the card again. Oh, this is always awesome. Click on edit. Now you can click on advanced parameters. It's always going to ask you for the simple stuff. By the way, don't be discouraged if you look at this right now and you think, oh God, this ID, right? Sometimes it needs a second to load. It's nothing frightening at all. What we need is the card description, right? So go add, select card description as a new field. Hang on, did I? Okay. So here's the card description field. And now we want to add this HTML to text block that we created. Basically the text block. We don't want to add the HTML, but we want the output of this, right? The plain text content. So we're going to add this into the card description to give the card a little bit more life and basically everything that we submitted in the form. All right, let's click on save. And we're gonna run another test real quick. Now we can test automatically with the recently submitted form, luckily. Click on test. Test is running. So it's gonna simulate the response submission of this form again. It worked. And now we go over here. There's Linus English German again. And we also have the description, name, Linus, email, right? Subjects, all this good stuff. Obviously, this is the format that I showed you. You could format that however you want. The only thing you can't do is different sizes, unfortunately. That doesn't work. You can only do fat or bold and normal, and I think you can do cursive, but you can't, unfortunately, make something bigger. That doesn't work. It does work here, as you see, but it doesn't work using the HTML to text block and then transfer over to Trello. That doesn't work. Anyways, that's pretty good already. So let's go back and edit this here further. One thing that I now did, I recorded every conversation I entered this form. I can tell you why. Even, and this is important, even if I thought they were no good, even if I didn't hire them, even if they thought I wasn't good, right? We always recorded the conversations as a form entry because these form entries here go to a spreadsheet. Right, they are going to be linked to an Excel spreadsheet. So it makes your reporting and everything way easier because you can immediately see how many conversations did I have this month? How many of them did I close? How many of them, did I have certain comments or something or selected a certain option on my form? So it's actually making really, really easy to grab all the data that you need to do your reporting. So this though means I don't want to push everyone down this process, right? Some of them I don't want to run down this process. So I don't want to send out a contract right away because if you're not good, I'm not going to hire you. I'm still submitting the form though, and the form is always triggering this automation. So what you can do is you can create an approval process. Another very good thing that is superior in Microsoft Power Automate against, for example, an 8N, right? Where you have to send an email for approval or stuff like this. Here it's just a native application. So you can say start and wait for approval. Start and wait for an approval. Yep, that works. And the cool thing is you have different ways of or different types of approval, right? Where if you would have a team, for example, where both people would have to agree, you could say something like everyone must approve or first response wins, so it doesn't clutter everyone's inbox. In our case, it doesn't really matter. Everyone must approve. Well, good. And I will say, this is going to create a mobile notification in Power Automate. It's actually also really cool. Power Automate. They have an app. I hope you can see that. So they have an app where it's also going to show you your current pending approvals. Obviously, I don't have any, but in just a minute, we're going to see how to approve one of your own automations, basically, in Microsoft Power Automate. What I think is super useful for exactly something like here, because I don't always want it to go through. And it's just being off in a separate application. I really like that. So back here, obviously I don't want some random notification. I wanted to give it title. And what I like to do is new contract submission for, and then again, I'm taking a dynamic thing and I'm taking first and last name. Nice. Now, one of the things you will need to assign it to an email. So for the approval process, you will need to select your own email, obviously. And then you can, then you can basically, will be the approver, and then you can approve your own process, if that makes any sense. I hope this makes sense. If not, then no worries. We will cover this in just a second. I usually don't like notifications everywhere, so I click on no. And this is also gonna ensure that I don't get them per email. I don't like to get an email if I already have it on my mobile phone. I think that's a stupid thing. So first, if I wanted to reassign it to my business partner, Alex, I could enable this option, but I don't want to do this, right? No notification, no reassignment, nothing. Because I was usually making this decision for hiring or not hiring. I was always making this decision on the spot, basically, while I'm on the call or on my phone. Right, so this is a setup. Click on save. And now we doing one of the last tests here for this part. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. Automatically, recent trigger, test. It's going to be running. Right. This can always take a second. And here it is. You see it's still spinning because it's waiting, right? That's by design. What's not by design is Microsoft just being slow. But anyways, it does work. And it gives you new contract submission for Linux. You can expand this, and then you have an approve or reject button. So that's pretty cool. And you can do it immediately on your phone on the app. I think that's pretty neat. Let me for now just, I'm gonna just approve it or whatever. It doesn't really matter because it's not gonna do anything. Click on approve. Probably the thing is going to fail. No. But there's no action, right? It's not gonna do anything with that. It's kind of stupid to have this step here. So what we want to do next is going more into detail. Click on edit. Let me zoom in again. Obviously, it's important if I approve it or not, right? So there has to be a decision for the automation. If I approved, then move on. If I did not approve, then do not move on. All right. So click on plus, and we want to add a condition. I don't have voice at all today. So the condition has to be set, though it's not yet defined for approval, or it's not automatically taking that. So what you can do is choose a value. We're basically going to look for this process here, the outcome of this process, right? The outcome of start and wait for an approval is equal to approve. Do not put anything else. Do not fiddle with the capitalization or something. Put it exactly like I do and it will work. right? Don't approval or something like this, right? This here is the exact wording for the outcome that we need. All right. So basically, the condition says if this here ended in approval, then do this, right? Whatever is in the true thing. If it did not end in approval, then do whatever it is in the false thing. Now, you could just go ahead in false and say end or terminate, I think they call it, terminate this flow. What the fuck is it? Terminate. Okay, you could do this. I do like to also do something with my Trello card because it's then just hanging here, right? I just created a new card. If I deny it, the contract's not going to go out, so I'm basically terminating the automation, but I have this stupid card here. I don't want it here. I want it here, right? I want them to go to not hired, but I still don't want to delete the card. You could delete the card if you wanted, but I want to move it for now. So I'm going to click on plus here, add a step obviously before termination, please. And I'm going to say Trello again. Let's click on see more. I feel like there is more. Yes. And now we can either update a card here, or you could delete a card. I actually never did that. I think that would be pretty cool as well. For now, let's update a card. I think it's probably better for demonstration purposes. So we're going to, again, go to employee onboarding, the card ID. Now, what card are we moving? We are not okay. Yeah, this is one of the things where they kind of screwed up. We're not gonna move this here. Right now, the card may be called Linus or Linus English German. Like there's a bunch of cards in here right now. Right? Linus English German 2 times, and employee name. But if you move one of these cards, it's not gonna be the one that the automation needs to take. So you click on enter custom value, and then on the left side here, fucking thing is hidden in there. There is a flash symbol. Try to hit it here. All right. And here you need to, from the create card step, right? One of our previous steps where we initially created the card, here we're grabbing the card ID from. All right. Because it's a unique ID for the specific card, and we want to update the specific card that we created initially. Create card ID. Or no, the card ID. Now, you will need to enter a name for the new card. What I really like to do is I stick with the initial name. You cannot type in Linus. Again, you need a dynamic variable thing here, right, for the name. So we're going to go exactly the same like we named the first card. You could probably go with the card name here. Name of the card, that would work. You can also go and say, let's take name of the card. And then I want to add something though. And I want to add declined because I declined sending out a contract. I didn't want to do this. All right. So this should work. And then on the other hand, right, if it does work, then now we want to send out the contract, right? Because obviously if I approved that this also automation runs, I want to create a contract and send it out to them. And the way I showed it to you in the last video is going to be used, we're going to use this template here to automatically generate the contract. So we don't have to write contracts or fiddle with Word documents or whatever. Let me search for Adobe Sign again. Let me click on see more. Now, big thing, I always do this wrong in these demonstrations and sometimes myself. Do not click on the sandbox thing. I don't know why it's always there. It's annoying, but this is only for developers. This here is where you want to live. Adobe Acrobat Sign. So click on see more there. And we want to create an agreement from a library template. and send for signature. Perfect. All right. I hoped this makes sense to you so far. Was this here? No, God. Maybe I need to re-log in. Let me quickly check something. Oh, there's another thing about the sandbox. Yeah, this is nothing to do with the stupid sandbox. All right, let me go back here, share my screen. By the way, I unshared my screen because you always want to be careful when you show your credentials to anything. With automations, all this AI stuff, I know it's nice to get carried, or it's easy to get carried away. But yeah, don't trust anyone with your credentials. That's important. All right. Now, I will call this agreement. This is a tricky step. We spent a lot of time on this in the other video of me explaining that. We will call this contract for employees or contractors or whatever. And then now we will need to add, the document ID. Now this is a little bit complicated. Go here, click on Open Template. And I think I told you the last time to use ChatGPT if you don't understand what's going on here, right? So let me copy this whole URL real quick. So we don't want to spend too much time on this. You want to basically extract the ID from the URL. Unfortunately, there's no way that Adobe just gives you the ID. You need to. My search is not working. Annoying. Annoying. Notes. Create a new node. Okay. Here. We want to extract the ID of this template. Let me share the entire screen, like this is annoying. Jump back and forth. All right. So we want to extract the ID of this template from the URL. All right. So you want to grab basically everything after the 2% F. All right. I hope this makes sense. Can I remove this hyperlink? Remove link. All right, because I just want to have the text. So everything after the F, because percentage to F, this is basically how we demonstrate line breaks and things like this, or spaces in URLs. We don't need the F. You want to grab everything after view and then after the percent to F. CB. Oopsie. Man, it doesn't want to do what I want to do. Okay, you will understand. Until here, I think we need to go. Let me quickly check that. I think that should work. Otherwise, again, if this doesn't work for you, you run into some problems, you can actually give this to ChatGPT and it will do a good job of giving you the right thing. But for now, copy this until the type, right? This is basically the ID. Put the ID in here. Okay, good that we have that. Now we can hopefully move on. Signature type is e-sign. What we also want to add is the signer, right? So the email that we, what the heck? Hang on. Okay, seems like we run into some problems here with this one annoying thing, unfortunately. All right, so what it's doing right now, you can maybe see that it's not retrieving all the information that it should for some reason. And it will probably not let me save this here because there's missing information. Yeah. Nah, this is really annoying. This is why I said this step here is so stupid. Let me quickly get rid of the whole step. Delete. Okay. Save. It's also good. I mean, it's annoying for me to give this demonstration this way. It's good for you to see it, how it works, right? When something doesn't go smooth, because these things here never go smooth on the first try. So I'll quickly execute another test. And this is what you always have to do when you're in automations and you don't find the information that you think you need, right? Then you want to execute one more test for the automation to understand, there's some information coming. All right. So I just now got it on my phone. I'm actually going to reject this thing. And we can immediately test if this moves the card here as well. Declined. Oh, we only renamed it. I didn't move it. Also a good thing to see. All right. So back here to the flow. Click on edit. I mean, it tells you it failed, but it didn't, right? We terminated it. So one thing first we want to do is to update this card here. We also want to show the list ID because we want to move it if we update as declined. We want to move it to a different list. And we want to move it to, I think, not signed or something. You will need the board ID. Board ID. Employee onboarding, and we want to push it over to not hired. All right, so this step should now work. Back over here. Now let's hope that this time it will actually work. Create an agreement. This is from the sandbox. This is what's creating all the problems, this stupid ass sandbox. Create an agreement from a library template. Click on that. All right. Agreement name, contractors, contract. This is the ID, right? We just extracted some minutes before. Click on plus. What the heck? Why is it not getting this information? You know what? Oh God. We're going to add, oh God, yeah, this was my issue actually. This is the order. I thought it was the email field. Sorry. But okay, this way we found that one of the things here wasn't working. So again, this stupid thing here always takes me some time. Let me switch over here. Let me get rid of you. You do not belong here. You neither. Back here. Add new item. And here in goes the email. Now we got it. Email. The email of the participant. This basically means, I mean, you following along, you can just put it in this way, but this basically means it's a first signer for Adobe. I forgot. Then they are the signer, right? This is the role. And this is the email that's going to be sent to. All right, this should now work. Let's save. Hope it doesn't give me an error, because otherwise there would actually be an issue with my Adobe sign. Nope, that works. I knew that was dog shit. All right. Now, back to the good stuff. Let me check over here what we already got. All right, good. That's basically it. So one thing that we can do now is move on with the steps that we had previously. And this is basically very simple. We are going to check. Now, let me quickly back up here. So this is sending out the contract, right? If we approve this from our phone, if we enter a form submission, it's going to create a Trello card automatically. If we approve sending out a contract on the phone, then it's going to send out a contract and everything will be automatic. If we decline it, it's going to update the card that it created to get it out of this here, right? And it should move over to not hired. So we keep track of it, but we don't need it to be here in our main area. And then it's going to end the thing, terminate the whole flow. If it works, if we approve it, it's going to send out this contract. Now, what we don't want to do is check twice a day if they already signed the contract, right? You remember when I said, hey, I don't want the step to have contract sent because we already automatically sent the contract. But what we also want to see is if this contract is already signed, and we don't want to check it manually because a lot of these people took like 3 or 4 days to sign the stupid ass contract. I don't know why, but it was like this. So they wanted to read it or talk to their goldfish or something, and it's good, right? But they needed some time. So I want to go back to the flow and I want to check if this contract that we just sent out is actually signed. And there's actually a button already for that pre-configured block. And this is get the status of an agreement. Get status of an agreement. And yes, it's in sign, not in the sandbox. Get the status of an agreement. Select the agreement ID. This here is the agreement we just created. So from create agreement, we select the agreement ID. All right. Now, one thing that's important is we just got the status. We need to make this, to make a decision based on this status, we need to make it into a variable. I hope I kind of not fail miserably to explain to you the concept of variables. But it's basically we grabbing so much information, right? We get the status of the agreement ID or of the agreement. We get so much information. Power Automate doesn't yet know that we're actually looking for just the status piece. Right? It's going to give you a bunch of stuff back. We need just the status piece. So we're going to initialize the variable here, call it a status. That's interesting. I never thought about making it a Boolean, by the way. I don't think that works. Anyways, let's stay with a string because we know that works. And the value of the status is the one piece that we got from this step here. Right? This is important to understand. And here, get the status of an agreement, right? This is our step here. We got so many pieces of information, created date, locale, whatever that is, message, participants, name, whatever. But here is the status. This is the only thing, basically, by setting this variable, we are extracting this one important piece of data. Is it signed or not? Right? This is the only thing we actually care about. So click on status. Now we created this variable. It's not set yet, right? It doesn't have a value yet. But this is what we're going to do in just a second. So we need to create this block here to be able to extract this information. And now we're going to continually check if this contract is already signed or not. Actually, very simple, right? The software is supposed to check every couple of minutes or every hour or whatever, is this contract already signed? And if yes, then we want to move through the next steps that I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes. So, to continuously do something, we need a do until. If you do not add this step, then you will always get back an unsigned agreement because nobody's gonna, you saw how fast these executions go. Nobody's gonna sign it in a fraction of a second, right? They're always gonna need some time, and we need to multiple times check, like every hour, that they already signed. So we're going to do this thing until, and here's where it gets interesting, right? This is the part that the people that watch the first video might understand already. We want to do this until, here's it hidden on the left side, the status variable, right? That we just created is equal to signed. Again, please put it exactly like me, no extra spaces, no extra thing, whatever. All right, we are going to do this for, let's say, 120 times. I'm going to show you how I did it in the real world. Or I think it was 200 times something. I wanted to give them like a week to respond. Yeah, let's say 170. This here doesn't have a time yet, right? It's not 170 hours. It's basically going to test 170 times. That's going to be super quickly. Tup, 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 tup. So that's why we're going to create, obviously, a time element inside of this do until thing. All right, but this is how you configure the do until. And then in the do until, we set multiple things. First, get the status of an agreement. Basically, again, it's like the same block we had here, right? So I could probably just have copied this. Beautiful. Get the status of an agreement. The agreement ID is actually doesn't really matter where you get it from, honestly. Let's say this here. This is all the same agreement that we're looking at, right? And then here comes the step that I will not use exactly like we would normally use it. First, we're going to set this variable, right? We want to fill in this variable that we set for the status, right? It doesn't have a value yet. That's what I said. We're only telling this is the piece of information we're looking for, but we're not setting a value for it yet. And this is what we're going to do now. We're going to say this is a status variable, and the value we're taking from get the status of an agreement 1. But every time we're checking here, this block, every time we're checking this, we're setting this variable. It is super critically important that you take the status from this here and not from this block. All right? So when you click on this flash here, make sure you're taking the right block. You want this one that is inside the do until. All right? Because otherwise, it's always going to take the same block. It doesn't make any sense. Take this block here, and we want to... Now I talked so much, I forgot what... the status. Scroll down, status here. So this is basically going to be filled in with the information from here. Now, normally, to limit the number of executions that you run in, you want to have a delay, because you don't want this to execute like every single minute and run into ungodly amount of executions. What I usually did is I put a delay, and because of the way that we configure the do until, this will run through 170 times, no matter if I say this here is a week, this will be 170 weeks, or this here is a day. What I usually did is 1 hour. So every 1 hour, it would check if the agreement is already signed. For testing, I cannot recommend that you do that, because if you're not fast enough to sign the agreement, it will take you an hour. Like you will have to wait way too long. So let's take every 30 seconds. All right, so every 30 seconds, this is going to check, and it's going to do it either 170 times or until the status variable is signed. Hope that makes sense. All right, let's save this. And yeah, the one thing that I want to do, there's so many things that we could do. And we're going to test this live in just a minute here. But there's one more thing that I want to do. I want a differentiation. Didn't have this last time. I want a differentiation between people signed and people did not sign. I found very annoying when I didn't have this, because I wasn't sure if the execution was already over, right? If the 170 was already through. I didn't know if they signed or did not sign, or maybe I forgot or was doing something different. So what I want is to be notified if they sign, then I want to be notified pretty much immediately. Or if they did not sign, then I want to be notified after 1 week. So there is another condition for us that we're going to work with. So another if, another if block basically. but here they call it condition. So in here, let's add another condition. Remember, we already worked with conditions just a couple of minutes ago when we were working up here, where we waited for an approval to see, hey, is this approved or not? We said, hey, it's approved, then do this. If it's not approved, then do this. And here, we're going to do something similar. I'm going to go, condition number 1 is that the status is equal to signed. Right? This is my condition. So if it's signed, then do whatever. If it's not signed, then do this. The reason why this is important, because this do until here is also loop until status is equal to signed. But if it's not signed, it's not going to do anything. Right? It's just going to stop. It's just going to stop looping and the thing ends. I don't want this. I want something here, right? I want this here to be, to be notified about this. And maybe not just notified, but we could do something cooler. And we could actually, okay, first of all, send mobile notification. Again, one very good thing about Power Automate, send mobile notification. And I want to say that teacher, Jesus, where's the teacher? First and last name, teacher did not sign their agreement. That is the mobile notification that I'm going to get. So I know what teacher is it about. And yeah, pretty simple, right? One other thing that you could do, for example, is go to Trello and update another card. And now you will realize we're moving through this here a little faster because some of the steps you already saw, right? We're going to take the employee onboarding card, the employee board. We're going to take enter custom value, click on a dynamic thing, and then we're going to take the card ID from create a card. It's hanging. Card ID. Updated name of the new card will be also from create a card, the card name. Card name. But instead of what I said before, declined, I want to say not signed. All right, and then I'm going to terminate this flow. Terminate this flow. All right, that's basically it. What you can do on the negative side. So I will not be able to test all the different scenarios with you here live. That doesn't make any sense, right? It's gonna waste way too much of everyone's time. But I hope you understand how this here will work. Maybe we run through one of the positive in a couple of minutes. But to review what we did till now is when a new response is submitted, we're grabbing the details. We're understanding that there is something, a specific value in there that's very important. We want to use it later. It's called rate, right? The hourly rate. We're setting this variable with whatever we had in the response details. We're formatting the response details into a text block, creating a card using this text block and the name, right? And then we're waiting for approval because maybe we did the conversation and the thing here was triggered, but I already know I'm not going to hire them. So I'm not going to approve a contract going out. If I do approve though, right? If I don't approve, card gets updated, terminated. If I do approve though, I would say create an agreement from a library template and send it out for signature, get the status of an agreement, initialize a variable about the status, and then loop over this thing until it's either signed or after 170 executions, we end automatically. The executions are defined by the delay in here. So after 170 times 30 seconds, after this, if it's still not signed, it's going to send me a mobile notification on my Power Automate app that will say first and last name teacher did not sign their agreement. It's going to update the card in Trello. And it would look something like this here, right? And of course, we also don't want to have it here, I just realized, but we also want to move this card over. So we're going to add the board ID and the list ID again to update both of them to employee onboarding, where we're already at, same board, and then the list ID will be not hired. So it's going to be pushed over there as well. One thing that I just realized when we're going through this is I forgot to enter the rate dynamic thing in here. We did have another flow where we already did that. So let me quickly look it up. So I'm making sure custom field 1, we named this field. So we will need to fill in this one Adobe Acrobat field, right? This empty field here is apparently called custom field 1. You will need that to say we want to add a form field. We will add a new item. The form field name, the form field name will be custom field 1. And again, I'm looking this up here on the side because it's super important when you do stuff like this. There cannot be anything wrong in terms of typos, right? Otherwise, it will be like, oh, I don't find the field. Help me, right? It's just gonna give you, hey, this thing failed, and we're gonna fill in this field with our variable, with our hourly rate variable. Rate, perfect, save. By the way, if you're still here, I appreciate your time. I know this is a little bit more technical and faster paced than usual, but yeah, it's also a way more complex and professional solution that, again, we use to onboard a bunch of clients and customers. So great job of sticking into it. I know tech is not the favorite thing of most people to do. That's why they hire me as a consultant. But yeah, I think putting in some time to learn these basic flows and everything is just, yeah, it's not optional anymore in modern day and time, because this here will take a lot of work off your plate and a lot of headspace away from you that we would normally need to invest to track all these things and manual stuff to do. All right. So what else can we add? Let me check. Obviously, we can't build my complete thing here. So what we want to do, though, right? Let's scroll down. We just went through this here, and when the contract is signed, we want to do at least 3 things. First, we want to download the PDF. Right? I don't want to go into Adobe Sign and get the contract. Get the PDF of a signed agreement. That's step number 1. Pretty intuitive. Get the PDF of a signed agreement. Obviously, filling this in will be super easy. Agreement ID you can take from, okay, you can take from literally anywhere. Click on here and click on the agreement ID here. Get the status of an agreement 1. Yeah. All right. That's it. Now we want to put this somewhere, right? We want to probably store this somewhere. And I think as we are already here in Microsoft, everything in Microsoft, why don't we use SharePoint to store a copy of this PDF? But I don't want to create just a file. I want to create a new folder, right? So everything is organized. So let's see more. Create new folder. Create new folder. Create new folder. This is gonna be, well, you would know your own SharePoint sites, I would guess, right? List of library. Even though I must admit this is always a little bit tricky. This should be documents. Yeah, documents. And then we have, it's a German business, right? So no worries about the naming. Where is it? Let me go back here. Documents. Vertragsunterlagen. That is basically a folder. Yeah, here I want to create a new folder in this here. So we're going to call it Vertragsunterlagen. It's your daily German. Oh yeah, don't put a space like I just did. Never do that. But we want to insert some dynamic content. And this is going to be the name of the teacher, right? So this way, what the heck? Okay. Right, so this way here, it's gonna be called exactly like the teacher. The folder is gonna be called like the teacher, right? It's gonna create a new folder. And then inside the folder, obviously want to create a file, right? I mean, we want to put the PDF that we just got into the folder. Create new file. Or maybe just file. Create file. One important thing when you create files, hang on, I'll show you in a second. So obviously the side address, you can go with the same side. For the folder path, you can actually fill this in dynamically. That's what you should do from creating a new folder. See all, and then I think it's called full body or something. Full path, folder path, full path, I think. Full path. And the file name is contract.pdf. All right, please put .pdf because it's not going to do it automatically like you would normally think. Everything else in the world works like this, right? If you upload PDF, it's going to recognize it. Here it doesn't. So you need to put contract.pdf. And the file content is obviously what we just got, right? A PDF of a signed agreement that was downloaded. So file content from get a PDF of a signed agreement. All right. And yeah, I mean, you could do more. You could, for example, say add another delay and then send an email. Send an email this year, V2. Send an email. Hey, welcome to the team. Or for example, send an email. Hey, here's your, why don't we do this? Send an email. And we're going to send it to. Why is it not letting me do anything? Oh God, switch to advanced mode. Yeah, there's some of the small things you have to know. All right, we're going to send this email obviously to the new employee. Where is their email from the initial form? Email. Welcome, bro. No, just welcome. Hey, here is the link to our training portal. And then I put net to know minus campus.net. It's actually our training portal. Regards, Linus. All right, so now we're sending another email. You see, you can add how many things you want for how your specific needs are for your process, right? And if you want to get advanced, you always have these advanced parameters here. You could, for example, send an attachment. That is what I used to do, right? Or you could just send the URL to something or the path to your SharePoint folder, for example. You know, if you have a SharePoint site for new employees to orient themselves, to have training materials, that's a perfect way to send it to them to make sure they always have it. Because we've all been in companies where it's like, did you get that? Oh no, I haven't got my access yet. Oh no, I didn't. Nobody sent that to me, blah, blah, blah. It's always a big bullshit, right? So we don't want this. So you could basically go and add more and more things. And obviously make sure to test at certain points in the process to make sure it works. And then obviously I like to end the thing with a notification to myself. to say, or I could send an email, for example, to Alex, whatever, create a text notification. Whoopsie. New teacher, put in the teacher's name, right? But this is what I could do. So I'm getting it on my phone. And yeah, you could actually even add a link. And this is also very neat. You can add a link to your, let me check this real quick for you. You can add a link, for example, to your SharePoint to, right, say, hey, there's a contract. You can also copy the link from one of your cards here. So if you want, then it's going to kick you out to Trello from your mobile app. I mean, Trello has a mobile app as well, but it's going to open the Trello app and going to show it to you here. Like, you can do so many things that would make your life easier. For now, let's just terminate here, right? Send me a mobile notification and that's it. Don't let terminate, because if you terminate, then usually it tells you it's failed. It doesn't have to, but right here, just leave it at this and then click on save. And as we are already 1.5 hours in, and this was a lot. Like we built a lot. I'm very aware that this was probably intimidatingly much for some of you guys, but this is incredible what we just built, right? And you were able to follow along step by step. If you didn't, you can stop this video here at any point in time, right? It's going to show you how to walk through the full process. There will be a recording so you can build this whole thing for yourself. Now, though, let's test if I actually build something that works. That's exciting. Oh, let's also clear these here. Archive, automatically. Yeah, why not? Let's test this here. So it's going to submit our form, right? So we submit our form response. These steps already worked. Very good. You can see the automation running here, and it's waiting for me to tell it if I want to send this employee a contract or not. What do you think? Should we do that? I don't know. He's called Linus. So I will go ahead on my phone in the Power Automate app and just click on the approve button. All right, approval is submitted. And now it should not go this route, right? You see, it didn't use this. It created an agreement from a library template. I don't know if you just heard that I got an email. This email is looking, hang on, let me share here. This email is looking like this. I get an invitation link from Adobe Sign. So I click on it, review and sign, and it's going to open the contract right away. Obviously, it's going to look a little like shit because, you know, we have these fields at the top, but I'm going to put in my name, Linus, address, whatever, just on the phone, right? And then when I click on next, it sends me to click to sign in. And here, it's basically very nice. You sign in with your fingers, right? You will enter your name, Linus, and you just sign with your finger. And that's it. That's how easy electronic signatures are, right? Submit this contract. And let me quickly share my screen here. You know, I submitted this right now as the signer because I'm talking so much. Probably it's going to take a second, but we will see it here in a second where it gets the status of an agreement and sees that I signed it. So you as the executioner, you don't executor for this flow, you don't have to do anything, right? You only have to approve the flow, enter the form, approve the flow. That's it. Now the flow is automatically checking if Linus, the new teacher, already signed. And if he did, then here will be a new card created. Oh, the new card's already created. But let me get rid of this here for just a second. And this here should be moved. Oh, I don't know if you even built this, that it was moved. Perfect. Perfect. So, get the status of an agreement was successful. This went through. Now this here is checking to get the PDF of a signed agreement. And now it's trying to create a SharePoint folder. Now, this is always the most critical part, unfortunately, because SharePoint's just a little bitch. But let's see if this works. Not sure about this condition here. It says true. Not sure why it's running here. This doesn't seem to make any sense. This worked. Let's wait a couple of seconds. All right, something is not 100% working here. I think we can all see that. It might be something with my form entry, actually. And that is what I think. So, as you saw, I think in the last video as well, these form entries can be a little bit bitchy as well. So let's quickly go to edit. Maybe it's also just hanging because it's not letting me go to edit. Okay. So also a good thing. Let's fix this flow. Everything was working, electronic signatures, everything is fine. That's cool. Something is not working here. So what I want to do is I'm going to submit a new form. Hopefully. Submit another response. And we're going to test this whole thing from scratch. The whole flow again. And one more thing that I want to do, when this is signed, then I also, after creating the file and everything, click on plus here. I want to update my Trello card, right? I completely forgot. Update a card. And I want to enter custom value again. Card. No. Where's the create a card? Here, card ID. And this is just going to be the card name. I'm not going to change anything in the card name. But I want it to go over into the next column, right? Into the next list. To make sure you understand, I want this here to move over here automatically. So board ID will be employee onboarding. List ID will be contract signed. This is where the updated card's going to be. It's just going to move over. Perfect. Save this. Oh yeah, I completely forgot the condition that we have to fix. Is something wrong with the condition? That is the question. No, I don't think there was anything wrong. No, because this worked. The only thing that wasn't working is creating the folder. It's always a little struggle, this folder thing. Create new folder. Let's see. We're here. We do have the right path. I feel like I was clicking around a little bit there. Oh, you see that? That's probably it. When I deleted this, there was a space. That would not work. Yeah. AI is not there yet, guys. It's good, but we're not there yet. It is annoying sometimes. Okay. So we want the first and last name. Honestly, this should now work. Okay. Let's save. And let's try this again with a fresh test. Manually test. So again, this automation for your complete automatic onboarding will now wait for a submission of this form. So I'm going to say Linus is going to be our new teacher. This is his email. Please don't spam me on this email. He's going to earn $19 an hour and he's going to teach everyone German for all classes, basically. So let's submit this form and jump back to the automation to see what it's doing. Oh, where's the automation? Here. All right. We just submitted the form. Let's hang on for a second here. Hope that worked, by the way. I switched so quickly. Oh, I'm not sure if... No, this wasn't submitted for some reason. Let's submit again. Now it was submitted. Let's go back here and wait for the automation to capture that this was actually submitted right now. All right, so we submitted a new response. I just got the notification that this here is now waiting for my approval. Right, we already got the response details. We already converted them into a text. We added them to a Trello card. Here's our new Trello card, German. This here, right? German. Here's the text. Here's my email. Everything is there. It's all created in our internal, let's say, CRM or whatever, right? And if I go back here, it's still waiting for my approval because I may send this contract out or I may not. So I'm tracking everything, but now I can decide, do I want to send this contract to this new hire or do I not hire them, basically? Right? Again, we have the approve thing on my phone, on the application. Click on approve, and now it's going to continue. Obviously, as we approved it, it's going to continue the positive route, and it's going to create an agreement with the information that we provided, right? It's going to send it to my email. Again, here's the email, right, on my phone. And just if for the case you haven't seen it the first time, it's going to ask me to enter my information, of course. And then at the bottom, there is this click to sign thing. It's very easy. Just click to sign and it's going to open. This way you can just sign with your finger. It's like fucking awesome, right? Then you put in your name, Linus, apply, and submit. So people can sign immediately with their finger, what is obviously super dope. And then back to the automation run. It's currently going through different executions to make sure if this, or to find out if this agreement was already signed or not. Perfect time to, all right, perfect. That worked. It got the status of an agreement. It saw that it was signed. Otherwise, it would have kept spinning, right? Would have kept spinning for, not forever, but for 170 executions, as we set it up here. Well, and it went down this route to create a PDF of a signed agreement and then update the card. And this is also really nice to see. Let's go over here. So the card just disappeared from here and it went over here. Oh, no, it went, oh no, didn't go over here. It went over here, right? Because the contract was just signed. So after the status of the agreement switched to signed, it went over to the contract is being signed. So that is pretty awesome. The only thing that's not working for some reason, and we're probably not going to go keep error shooting, is create new folder. And I'm honestly not sure why. I would probably, if I had the time, I would delete it and recreate it. You can see this in the other video as well. I think the last time we had issues with this step as well. Again, if there's somewhere an extra space in there, or maybe I have a typo. I may have a typo in the Vertragsunterlagen, for example, then it doesn't work. Vertragsunterlagen. Let's check. And also, and that's probably what's happening here because I didn't check. If the folder already exists, then it doesn't work either. But no, there is no issue there. Somehow it's just not creating it because of the name. This is just an annoying another step. You would delete the thing, retry it, try with a different. Right, so this here, for example. Probably it's just a stupid extra space that I have here. Again, I don't know why I have this there. But if I delete this, now it should work. All right, it is kind of stupid, but it is what it is. So be careful with this URL path here. I keep making mistakes, but it's not that hard if you, if you have the time to go through some iterations. Maybe for the sake of this video here, because why not? Let's do one last test to see if this now works. And if not, then I give up and I need to do it on another episode. Let's test one last time. Come on. Automatically, recently used trigger. Yeah, we're gonna use the same trigger, because why not? Oopsie. Sure, waiting for my approval. Then I get the email. Okay, approval is there. Email. I'm submitting the contract. Signed contract, right? So it's still waiting to see if that agreement was signed. Agreement was signed. Downloading the PDF. Oh, fuck's sake, it works. Finally. All right. Now it created a new folder and it created a file. All right. What a shame. Always the same thing. I really struggle with this block because it's really easy to add another space in here or something because of the way that it works when you add these dynamic symbols. So don't freak out, right? Either you already have the folder, it already exists, or you have some symbols in there that cannot be in there. Extra spaces cannot be in there. Some random things cannot be in there. So make sure that your form submission is clean, right? You just put the name, and that your that especially that your path here, the folder path, that has to be clean as fuck, right? Nothing works there. All right, and then we created a file. We sent an email. Actually, I just got this email. Yeah, so it's telling me. Where can I go? This. It's telling me, hey, here's the link to our training portal. Just got this email. It's actually pretty nice. Let's click it. Let's go to the net to know campus.net. Yeah, unfortunately, you won't be able to get in because it's secured. But yeah, that's basically it, right? We send this to our new employee as well. And yeah, this way we completed this whole thing here. And yeah, this was how you onboard or automate the onboarding of your employees through Power Automate, Adobe Sign, and Trello. So you have one thing where you just go, you just type in a form, you fill in an easy form wherever you are on your phone. It's going to kick on off this full cascade of different decisions, of updates to your cards, right? Changes and names and everything like this. This here would also be now in the next step be moved to access to given to training given, right? If we added a new update card step, because it just sent you the training update, right? The training access. Just send it. So now I'm basically just having to circle back to ask him, hey, how far are you with training? And usually what I said is, please tell me when you're done with training. So I would then move this card over here. And here's one last thing that I'm going to show you, because why not? We only did so much today, right? Whenever I then move this card over here, I would create a rule here in Trello, because at some point it doesn't make to track everything with Power Automate anymore. And I would just create an automation in Trello. It's very easy. Add a trigger. When a card is added to the list ready for first client by me, then we want to content send an email notification, normally obviously to Alex, but here to Linus. New teacher. And here you can actually enter the URL of the card if you want to, right? You could do that. For now, let's just click on that, save. And this way, basically, whenever I now whenever my part was through, right, I interviewed the people. I sent out a contract, or the automation sent out the contract. I created a SharePoint folder, or the automation created a SharePoint folder. I downloaded the PDF, put it in the SharePoint folder. The automation did that, right? So the automation did basically everything. It even sent the access to the training. And then the teacher would reach out to me and say, hey, I completed the training assignments. How is the next step? I would just go in here. I would say, push this card over here. And in that moment, Alex would get an email from Trello saying, hey, a new teacher is ready for their first assignment. Here's the link to that teacher. Here's just the email coming in. It's coming from Trello Butler, kind of a cute name. And it just told me there's a new teacher. You can click on it. It goes right to the card. And this is how we handled onboarding. This is how we handled, our complete process. Basically, he would do the same for this year, right? First assignment given, this would send me an email to inform me, hey, you have to reach out to them again. And check in with them. How was their first lesson that they gave with the student? How's the feeling that they got? Whatever, right? So this was basically a not so quick overview. Again, incredibly complex what we built today. Big props if actually anyone makes it to the end of this video. I would be really happy about that. I'm not sure if anyone does, because I know it's very intimidating to watch all this stuff because it's so heavy, right? It's IDs and codes, URLs, and you need to cut out stuff. But I can tell you, this is worth some actual money. This video here took you 2 hours to watch. It will take you 6 hours to build. But the reason why we build it is because it's worth it, right? Companies right now, as of today, are investing millions and billions every year into software solutions that automate all this stupid, tedious shit. And everything that you could forget. Like, for example, giving them access to the training portal. Because this way here, you never run into situations or you massively decrease the situations where you, for example, onboard a new teacher today. You think they're all set up for next week to start a new assignment. Now it's next week. Now they're invited into a WhatsApp group to create the class tomorrow, but they didn't even have access to the training yet because your stupid ass forgot to send it to them. I know exactly what I'm talking about because it happened to me multiple times. And this is exactly why we have processes. This is where software can really, really help you to eliminate all the options for error that you usually have, that you usually don't fail to execute on because we're all human and we tend to make mistakes. Software does make mistakes, but it's very, very rare. So this here is your solution on how to automate the onboarding or and processing basically of your employees or also your customers, because they would go through a similar cadence basically, right? So knowing all the steps that you saw today, you can basically adjust these blocks to do exactly the same thing for your customer management system. By the way, when you're thinking about customer management system, I just showed you this here in Trello. I just quickly created the board. If you want to learn more about how to actually understand your own processes and how to differentiate between projects, processes, and how to use Trello, for example, as your CRM system, then just check out one of the earlier episodes. I think it's episode 1, where we go through this tool, Trello, and exactly how to build different processes for onboarding or customer relationship management. Yeah, that's it for this episode. Was a little longer, and then hope to see you next week in the next episode of System Saturday. Thank you and bye-bye.